We're gonna go to Caleb. No pronouns given. What's that? No pronouns given today. That's fine. If I know how to click buttons, there we go. From Ohio, DNA is evidence pointing to an intelligent designer. Never heard this one before, so I'm interested. Just kidding. Sorry, Caleb. I mean to rag on you. How you doing, Caleb?
I'm doing fine. By the way, I'm Zach's brother.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Sweet.
Oh, all right.
So Zach and Caleb family. What's that?
Okay. So this kind of ties into the teleological argument. And so I have called in before, and I don't know if I've talked to any of you two specifically, because I know you guys have different hosts every single week. I mean, maybe it'll be one of the same people. But anyway, I know you guys switch around sometimes, alternate. And so anyway, the teleological argument, should I just go through kind of like what that is really quick, just kind of go through the first couple premises, even though you guys might already know what it is, and maybe even some of the people who are listening to this. Should I just go through that?
Yeah, that'd be best, because then we know your term, like the terms that you're using, and then I might be able to ask specific questions about the term usage and stuff like that.
Okay, so the definition of the teleological argument, well, I would say, before I get to the premises, which won't be that long, so the teleological argument uses the apparent design that we observe in nature as evidence for God's existence. And I think it's also important to note that the teleological argument does not specify which God that this is. I am a Christian, so I believe this is the Christian God based on different evidences, but I want to stay on one topic for today. But anyway, so yeah, it says that there is an intelligent cause. It doesn't say what cause this is. And so that's what the definition would be. Now, the premises actually go like premise 1, every design had a designer, which is kind of just a given. Everything that we observe, like that we use here on Earth, not here on Earth, but like, you know, our technology, the phones, this book that I have on my desk right here, like it's all designed. And so premise 2 sort of applies that to the universe and says that the universe has highly complex design. And so the conclusion, if both of these premises are true, would be that therefore the universe had a designer. And so premise 2 is like the main one I think would that we would really be focusing on, which would be,
hold on.
What actually is the...
Sorry, can you state it again? Because I'm concerned that the conclusion doesn't follow. Can you state the premises again? I might have just misheard you. So the first one was, I was like, it seemed like it was invalid, but hold on, let me just see what because I could just misheard what you said. The first premise was a designer's design or something. It sounded like a tautology or something.
It was saying that every design has a designer.
Oh, every design has a
design. Like our shirts are designed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Designer.
Okay.
And then premise 2 was applying that same concept to the universe. And I was saying, like, premise 1 is just a given, but what is the evidence that the universe has that highly complex design?
Well, I just want to know what the second. I just want to know what the second. I just want to know what the second premise is.
The second premise is that the universe has highly complex design.
Okay. And then the conclusion is that
therefore the universe had a designer, but I want to focus on DNA as the evidence.
But hold on, but I mean, I have to write this out. But how does the conclusion follow from the premises? Like, how could it not just be that I accept the premises and then just deny your conclusion? Like it just seems like you couldn't tell me that I mean, I'd be best maybe if I type this out, but.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong there, JMike. I feel like what you're pointing out is like, how do we know that it's like a God, this God entity versus like maybe some kind of like highly intelligent extraterrestrial civilization that created our universe or whatever? Would that be along the lines of what you're trying to say, JMike?
I'm saying that the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, you could say that it could just be some other thing. Oh God, I pulled up a text thing and it had the last bad argument that Atheist gave me, and it was hilarious. But anyway, sorry, I got to keep that up for print these out and put them on my wall. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I have it as things that are designed have a designer. And then premise 2, I'm so sorry to have you do this again, but it's better for me to visually see this. Are you there? Yeah, premise 2. I just want to make sure I have the exact wording of the premise.
So I'm just looking at something that I wrote down here. This might not necessarily be the exact way the argument goes.
No. That's fine. Look, there's no like the argument has to be this way. It's just a class of teleological arguments are just a class of arguments. So you could just make up teleological arguments of yourself. So there's no problem there. I just want to point out something to you that might be a problem with the argument. So can you just give me premise 2?
Yeah, okay. But then after that, can I get to the DNA, which I actually called in for?
Yeah, that's fine. But I want to point out to you that if I'm hearing you right, which I'm pointing out that I could hear it wrong, that the conclusion doesn't follow from the premises. So just give me the premise one more time.
Okay. Okay. So premise 2, was it?
Yep.
Okay. Premise 2 is that the universe has highly complex design.
And then the conclusion was that therefore God created the universe or something, or designed the universe?
No, it was therefore the universe had a designer in the same way in the same way premise 1 says every design had a designer. It's saying that if the universe actually shows design, then it had a designer.
This argument's invalid. Do you know what it means for an argument to be invalid?
Like not reliable. It's invalid.
No. So, and I'm not doing this to shame you. I'm not. But because I can help you. We could construct the argument to make sure it's formally valid and I don't want to take up John's time though by doing that, but I just want to point out something to you that's important, that this doesn't follow, the conclusion doesn't follow. So what you don't want is you don't want to give this argument to me. Premise 1, things that are designed have a designer. Premise 2, the universe has highly complex design. Therefore, sorry. Things that are designed have a designer. The universe the universe has highly complex. I can't read what I put. You said design?
Yeah, he said design.
Okay, then that's fine. Okay, sorry. I thought you had different wording. That's fine. Okay. So I just want to make sure we have the argument here. Okay, so then I'm fine with this. So then premise 2, so then just what's the support for premise 2 then? So I'm fine with this. I just want to make sure that the conclusion follows from the premises. That's all.
Okay, so I was just trying to use DNA as the evidence for the second premise that the universe has, the universe shows design, that the universe looks designed.
It still won't follow because it's things that have highly complex design. It doesn't follow that therefore the universe had a designer. That's fine. We're gonna let that go. That's fine. I don't want to get on the validity police,
anyway,
but it is bothering the shit out of me though. But it's fine. We'll just move on it.
Yeah, no, I totally think that there's definitely a major problem there with whether or not you can follow to the conclusion there. But I think before we get into
it's fine. We'll just do a principle of charity.
But before we get into your DNA evidence there, which I've heard a million times, but I would love for you to be able to tell me. What's your criteria for discerning between designed and undesigned materials?
So designed and undesigned. So something that looks, so in the context of like the DNA, what I'm going to be doing is, so if something looks like design, like, so if you see something written in the sand, you're going to assume that someone wrote it there. When if you just see,
hold on, Caleb, hold on one second. Okay, let me ask the question in a different way. Do you personally believe that God has designed everything in the universe?
This is what happened one of the last times I called in here, and I don't know how important this actually is to the argument itself.
It is very important. It is very important to the argument.
Right.
Do you personally believe that the entire universe, like everything in the universe, is designed and created by God?
This will matter because this will be the support for P2, or at least John's going to point out how. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway. Yeah, I think everything has been designed by God, but I also think that God designed natural processes such as the water cycle and different things like photosynthesis and all that. So I don't necessarily think it's a miracle if grass grows.
Right, I get that, which I feel like this is just going to end up in an ad hoc loop. But what is your evidence that God did that? Are you just presupposing it as what is it called, an axiom? Like one of your own axioms that you use, that you're just presupposing that that's a given, or do you actually have evidence that God has designed natural processes?
Well, we all have our own ideas that we start with, but that's actually one of the reasons I'm calling in, is because I think DNA is part of the evidence of how we can know that there is someone who actually did design this, so that we can conclude that.
Do you understand what John's critique is? Because I've never talked to John about this, and I already knew what he was going to say before, because it's an issue. It's an actual issue.
Okay, well, could you tell me then exactly what it is?
You can, but but you got to understand it is slightly annoying, because It is slightly annoying that you're I don't understand why people ask this thing, and then you want me to tell you, as if if I was on some show and I was like, why does everyone keep asking this? And they were asking me, well, I would just repeat it back to them and be like, you say this and I'm sick of hearing it, and here's why it doesn't apply to my argument. That's what I would do in your shoes, right? But that's not what you're doing, because you don't know what we're saying. So what we're saying is that when you want some contrastive comparative analysis in your view, what you don't have that me and John have is I can build things out of rocks and make a house. And if me and John are just naturalists or some non-naturalist atheist or whatever, right, we have the natural world, right, and we can build things out of those things. And so now we have this comparative analysis between the background data that we have of things that are built out of the things that aren't built by things, right? These natural occurring things. So we can pick up a rock, I can pick up a watch, and I can compare, right? This thing was made with these kind of components. This thing, isn't made. I can have a comparative analysis. Whereas on your view, anything that you pick up was designed by God, right? It doesn't matter that if it's some transitive thing that happens later down. I mean, if you think A caused B, which caused C, which caused D, and you think D is responsible, by A, then A caused D, right? So it doesn't seem like you have a comparative analysis. So how does the premise supposed to be supported?
Well, I'm trying to give evidence for the premise by talking about DNA, and you were talking about what annoys you. What's kind of annoying me is the fact that
So listen, I get that. I'm really just trying to cut through a bunch of bullshit rhetoric to get to your point, because I can guarantee you, we've heard your DNA thing before, and what we're going to tell you is that DNA is a chemical, and it's governed by the laws of chemistry. It's governed by the laws of physics, and that's the reason why DNA operates the way that it does. That's the reason why DNA, does its thing. So that's what we're going to tell you. So us hyper focusing in on your evidence for natural processes is getting at the core of what your issue is. I'm just trying to get to the issue so that we're not on here for 45 minutes while you try to explain the issue, and we're just going to end up there anyways. So natural laws. What's your evidence for God designing natural laws, and that there needs to be a wizardly designer for natural laws?
Okay, and so you see, I think what you're kind of doing right here is I think you're kind of putting up a straw man, and I hate it when atheists do this. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not gonna. Okay, we're not gonna get on the meta thing. We're just gonna stick with the content. So, if it's irrelevant, you can just be like, look, what you just said to me was this thing, and here's why it's not relevant for this reason. And then it would just shut John down, and John would respond. But just don't go on the meta. It doesn't do anything. So Just get an actual
I
response.
just heard a beeping sound again. Was I taken off and put back on? I just heard a beeping sound.
I physically muted you. I'm not hiding that. Because what I don't want to hear is the meta. I don't want to hear about this is what atheists do and stuff like that. Like, I fucking hate that. Don't do that. What we're going to do is talk about the content of the argument. Just talk about the content of the argument. There's no reason to get all pissy and mad. There's no reason to do that. Me and your brother had a perfectly fine conversation. I think you're capable of doing the same, right? So we should be able to do this.
Okay, so I wasn't trying to go off what you're saying or jump to something else. It's just something I caught that kind of annoyed me. And in the same way, you found something that you caught that kind of annoyed you. So could you repeat what you were trying to say again? I want to be able to answer it good. I'm sorry. I think this is the second time I've done this. But
it's fine. It's just we don't understand how you can support that. So to take it back, John picked up on we didn't worry about the validity issues, right? We were just like, whatever, that's fine. There's some weird language here where, like, I get what you're saying. We can make this a valid argument if it's not, and that's fine. Validity, no worry. We can just apply a principle of charity. But so now the contentious thing is the thing that you said at the beginning, which was, look, premise 2 is going to be the thing that we're going to have to talk about, right? And then you want to support that with the DNA stuff. We understand you. We hear you loud and clear. John picked up on the word design, right, in premise 2 and goes, well, hold on. It's not clear. And John, you tell me if I'm wrong, right? He picked up that word and goes, well, hold on. I got to know this thing because I don't know how you're going to support premise 2, which is what, you don't just give arguments and run away. And you're obviously not doing that. You're coming here to give support for the premise. But it's not clear to us how you're going to do that until you answer this question about how it's even clear that you can have an analysis of design versus non-design in your view when everything is designed. In our view, it's really easy for me to do that when I think that things are natural and I can build things out of them, right? There's no mystery about that story, about things that are designed and things that aren't. You have this other worry about, you think the entire universe was designed and everything in it was designed, right? So now you have to have this comparative analysis between those two things that you just don't have access to, right? So it's not clear how you're even going to support P2.
Okay, so I heard you talking about natural laws earlier also, and so what if we pretty much found something that said pretty much God was here? That would be like we found something that showed us that
if you're just baking in that God did this thing, then God would have done that thing. I mean, it just sounds like you're just asking me, well, what if we found something that confirmed God's existence? Well, then we would have, you just answered it. Then we found something that confirmed God's existence. What's that thing? I don't know. So I don't really know why I'm playing that game.
But that's exactly what I think DNA does. It doesn't say God was here. I mean, of course, DNA doesn't say anything. It's
now you're skipping over John's
anyway.
Well, yeah, okay. So Caleb, I'm sorry. I'm really wanting to harp and hyper focus in on these God designed natural laws and the support for God needing to be there for natural laws to occur. And I want to give you an example here of where I think the problem lies with your argument with DNA. And I'm sort of taking a much more simpler process than DNA because you can, I get it. DNA is complicated. People can be personally incredulous about it, and that can seem like a good piece of evidence for God. If we look at the water cycle is basically based on this water molecule and the various stages that it goes through when at various energy levels. So like when a group of water molecules gains so much energy that it turns into water vapor, we get clouds, right? Water evaporates up into clouds form. When those water molecules lose enough energy to turn into water droplets, we get rain, right? The rain falls on the ground, and then when the water on the ground, this liquid water gets loses even more energy, it turns into ice. And then you can start the process, you can go in reverse. When that ice gets enough energy to turn into liquid water, that liquid water can attain more energy and turn into water vapor, and that entire process in very different ways can happen all over the world. And not just on on Earth, but on other places as well with, different molecules. So where is God in this natural process? If you say that God designed natural processes, then where is God in this gaining and losing of energy levels that changes the presentation of water molecules? Where is God in this natural process?
Well, I'm trying to use DNA as an evidence for that.
Oh my God, Caleb, I said that I was going for a simpler process so that people didn't get lost in the weeds about how DNA operates, because you're talking about complex chemical, complex chemistry. You're going with organic chemistry. There's also inorganic chemistry that we could talk about, and the different ways in which all those things operate. The ways in which DNA operates requires advanced understanding of like chemical laws as well as physical laws. I'm just simply talking about some basic physics here with the water cycle, and I'm trying to focus in on that because it's simpler to talk about.
Yeah, but no one builds an argument off of that. So you're pretty much just saying we can't go into the topic that I called for because you think it's going to be a little too hard?
No, that's not what I said. JMike, is that what I said at all? Like,
No.
Okay, good. We could talk about DNA, but I feel like we need to get past this whole God designed natural laws first in order to talk about DNA. So like I laid out a very simple natural process, and I'm just asking, where does God fit in that natural process? Because to me, it just sounds like energy is being added and removed from a molecule in various ways. The energy is being added and removed. Where is God in this? Is God the one that's taking away and adding energy? Is that where God is?
You see, here's what I'm saying. God created this. Like, it's not a miracle when it happens. A miracle is something that violates the laws of nature. These things do
No. But where? How do you know? What I'm asking is, how do you know God created this? This is very basic physical laws of adding energy to a system and removing energy from a system. These are things that we understand well in physics. I'm wondering where God fits into that. Can you tell me, like, where does God fit into that equation? You just ad hoc saying that God created it doesn't answer a fucking thing, right? It doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me that you're ad hoc adding God into the mix. Where is your evidence that God is necessary for that natural process?
So you want to stay stuck on the water cycle, and I'm sorry if I misunderstood what you had said earlier, but you're specifically staying on the water cycle. Like, I can't explain everything just based on the water cycle.
I'm talking about natural laws, like natural laws. See, that's the entire thing.
Sorry.
That's where I was trying to get past this entire rigmarole about the DNA, because when you talk about the DNA, you're going to say that DNA is highly complex and it's a language and it's a code and all this other stuff. And only a designer can design a code so complex because something Bill Gates said something so many years ago. That's what you're going to tell me. And what I'm going to tell you in response is basically that natural laws govern DNA and how DNA operates, as well as RNA, mitochondria, the way that cells move, the way that cells retain the internal pressures versus the external pressures. All of that is going to be because of natural laws, natural forces. So I'm trying to cut through the bullshit here and get to the point where God is required for any of that to happen. The same kind of explanation that I'm using for the water cycle is going to be the same explanation that I use for DNA. It's just that I'm removing all of the complexity around DNA so that we can get to the heart of the issue, and that is, where does God fit in with natural laws? Their natural laws are governing the function of DNA and the formation of DNA, the creation of DNA. Natural laws are going to be the explanation for that. So the same explanation for the water cycle. Where is God in the water cycle?
But again, you're moving back to the water cycle. Why it has to be? And you said DNA, and then you said you said complex. I don't think that it's just complex. I think there's specified complexity, which is a huge difference within those things. And I think God created all of the natural laws.
Define specified.
I think he created all.
Define specified complexity.
So if I just blop a bunch of ink randomly on a paper, that's going to be a complex design that would be hard to replicate. But that's not what we are saying. Now, what if you found like a code written on there or a message written on there, information? Then surely you would suspect that that it didn't just get there. That information didn't just come about because.
Wait, so are you gonna claim that Yahweh is written in our DNA and DNA in general? Like, is that what you're saying? Like, DNA has signed our God has signed our DNA with Yahweh or some kind of shit like that?
No, and by the way, so I'm a Christian and I don't really cuss, and I don't really appreciate when
I don't really give a fuck if you're
he'll
cussing now.
fucking cuss whenever. If you're a Christian, might not want to call a bunch of atheist heathens because we'll fucking cuss. I'm sorry that like I don't someone asks me to not cuss around them, I typically will. But if you're like in my home and you ask me to do that, fuck no, I am not going to do that around you. The door is there. So again, like you can hang up if you like. I have no problem keeping you here. You can pull up your big pants. If God can slaughter infants, I think that you can listen to a couple words. I think it'll be fine. Okay, so I mean, you don't get mad at God for slaughtering infants, but you want to get fucking mad at me and John for saying fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? Sorry. All right. Had to do that. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, that's just what But
this is what you expect from an atheist. Oh yeah, because that's what.
You're appealing to a standard higher than yourselves.
Well, I don't think that standard exists. So yeah, I don't think that standard exists. So
if only that standard exists.
Yeah, I don't.
At least you admit my point.
What? Your God standard doesn't exist? Yeah, I don't think that, like, I believe in this mafioso who has the bigger stick God that slaughters infants. Yeah, that's not my standard. Did you think you got me there or something?
But what's wrong with that? And an atheist, we just evolved by natural processes. What's that's wrong? I know we've jumped from topic to topic.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you're burden shifting. It sounds like you're burden shifting. But well, do you think that atheism is incompatible with types of like normative ethical views? You don't think that you could be like a threshold day ontologist and be an atheist, or like a utilitarian?
No, but based on. I think an atheist could act better and do more things that would be considered good than a Christian, but that's not the point of the argument.
Yeah, I can do things that are considered good, and the first thing I'll do that's considered good is dropping Caleb. Caleb, call back anytime. I'd love to talk to you.